Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is Health Matters on Channels Television. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Worldwide, there are more than 243 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. By Friday, October the 22nd, the death toll was over 4.9 million. In Nigeria, there were more than 210,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, more than 198,000 recoveries, and 2,855 deaths. Globally, over 6.7 billion COVID-19 vaccines have been administered, while in Nigeria, over 5.4 million have got a first shot, and almost half of that number are now fully vaccinated. A vaccine breakthrough infection happens when a fully vaccinated person gets infected. On September the 14th, the BBC reported that 256 out of over 51,000 COVID deaths in England between January and July were after 2 doses of vaccination. As of June the 25th, the American Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported a total of 750 deaths from breakthrough cases. Why do breakthrough cases happen? And can they be prevented? My guest is a senior research fellow and team lead vaccine design at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. You're welcome to the show, Dr. James.
Thank you for having me once again.
Why are we having breakthrough cases, first of all?
Well, the major issue with the virus, as we all know, is that the virus is constantly mutating. And once it's mutating, we can have what is called escape mutants. And what we mean by that is that the escape mutants can escape our immune response that we had mounted earlier. And that's why we are looking at probably booster shots to see how we can continuously, make shots that can prevent any further attack by new variants that may likely come up.
Is this a novel thing, or have we had breakthrough cases with other vaccines, other diseases?
Yes, we've had breakthrough cases with other vaccines. However, we look at the number of cases, like for in some cases like measles at times, you could have maybe some few cases, breakthrough cases, even in vaccinated children. Even for oral polio, we all saw what happened, that at times we could have breakthrough infection. And so it's not new having breakthrough cases. And many times people think that once you have the vaccine, that everything is over.
Yeah.
But the main job of the vaccine is to sensitize our immune system. And many times I like to explain the immune system as the soldiers that help fight any foreign body that gains access into our body. But many times you need intelligence or information gathering for you to develop your soldiers.
Okay.
And that's what the vaccines, that's what they do. So you can't just ask your law enforcement or your defense that go outside, go and fight. Who are you fighting? How do they look like?
Yes.
Where do they come from? So the vaccines make the immune systems ready, more or less like a rehearsal, so that when these foreign agents come in, the soldiers, the immune system can fight this foreign agent.
Okay, I get what you're trying to say. The vaccine doesn't keep it away, but it makes you able to handle it when it does
Definitely, precisely.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you now have escape mutants, so you have some of these evaders, disguising in another form.
Yeah.
And if you can't recognize what you had been trained, to see, they would come into the system, the cellular system, and they can cause the problems that now we call, breakthrough issues.
However, an infection could come to vaccinated human beings, A and B.
Yeah.
And A gets a breakthrough infection, B is not affected.
So that brings us to myriad of factors, right? One of the key things people look at is probably genetics. Another thing is how much of immune response was A able to mount compared to B. So if B wasn't able or did not mount sufficient immune response, it might not be able to fight as much as B would
Okay.
fight. And at times, some people are exposed to some drugs or some certain challenges that makes them immunocompromised. So they have a lower level of immunity. And when the virus comes back, and it happens. So it's not because the vaccines are bad, nor because the vaccines are not working, but there are so many factors that come into play when we look at breakthrough infections. Yeah.
Let's talk about how the point at which the vaccine is most effective. I've heard things like after you've taken the jab, 10 days later, the immunity kicks in or whatever. Explain that to us, please.
So when you take, when one is either vaccinated through natural infection or the vaccines that we take, artificial infection, the body immune system begins to develop what we call adaptive immune response.
That's if he's infected.
If it's infected,
Okay.
and if it's presented, because you have to present the evidence to, because the body immune system also have, like our intelligence agents.
Inspectors.
Yeah. So once they get the information, right, they can now use the information to prepare what we call adaptive immune response. And by so doing, they can begin to secrete what we call antibodies.
Yes.
So these antibodies can begin to go around like surveillance, agents, go around. And anytime they notice anything that looks like, like that same pathogen, they tend to arrest it, like the civil defense, hold it, then take them to the police. And they can get, face all the judgments that they need to face. So what happens?
Disarm him.
Most likely, or most likely destroy them, or even destroy the cells that harbors them.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, that does happen. Treatment of cancer is something like that, right?
So it's like, by day 7, day 8, it's a process, continuous process. But for vaccine immunogenicity, what we mean by that is how much immune response do we get? By day 28, we want to see that how much of the antibodies do we have?
Okay.
How much of the antibodies we have. And when we get the antibodies, we can now test them against the virus, which we call neutralization test. Can those antibodies neutralize the virus that we have in the lab? And that's what we usually look out for.
Okay, but you haven't been very specific about how long it takes for the highest immunity to be reached.
So for different infections or pathogens, you have different response. And the response varies between different individuals.
Aha.
So you could have some people having antibody peak at maybe 5 months, 6 months, and by the 7th month for COVID, it wanes.
Okay.
It goes down again. And that's the essence of the booster shot. So you take a prime shot, prime dose, and you take a booster dose so that you can sustain the antibody response.
Okay, this booster dose is causing a bit of concern.
Okay.
First of all, we were told you only need 2 doses. Everything's going to be fine. At least that's what people believed. And then we hear that people should get a booster shot. Of course, there are the skeptics that say, oh, they've not made enough money. They want to make more. But my concern is, will 3 be enough at this rate? Are we going to have to take a 4th dose? That's a second booster shot? Or are we going to end up having to take a COVID vaccine every year?
Okay, so this is it. There are some desirable factors that you want to look at if you want to use vaccines to eradicate a particular pathogen or disease from the society. Number one, you need to be able to ascertain that this pathogen resides or only infects humans.
Okay.
In the case of COVID, no. You can have COVID in animals.
Oh, that's right.
Right. 2, you want to be sure that this pathogen is not mutating. In the case of COVID, it's mutating. 3, you want to be sure that these vaccines do not have a lot of asymptomatic cases. This infection do not have a lot of asymptomatic cases.
And we fall flat there again.
We fall flat there again.
Are asymptomatic.
4th, you want to be sure that these vaccines are heat stable. Most of them require cold temperature. In fact, the highly efficacious ones. Yes. No, but some of them are still relatively stable at 4 degrees. But the most efficacious ones, you have to store them very well. They need cold chain logistics. Then some people look at some other parameters, to be sure that, excuse me, that if we can have all of these desired factors, it is easier for us to eradicate a pathogen, using vaccines.
Okay, can you run that by me once more? These are 4 factors you've mentioned. They are factors that, if
They're
any
desirable.
Desirable.
Desirable factors.
Why do you call them desirable?
Because if we had such conditions, it would have been easier for us to eradicate, the virus by building herd immunity. I'll take, for instance, the first one I mentioned was that it has to be in one host.
Just one host.
Humans.
But we have more than one host.
More than one host. So the virus could get into animals.
Okay, so desirable would have been if it was just one host.
One host.
Okay. I'm getting the point. Before you go further, can humans catch the virus from animals?
Well, it's possible.
This
very
is
possible.
Looking bad.
Very, very,
and
very...
we are not vaccinating animals?
We can't... Even the vaccines we have for humans are not enough.
Not enough.
But the smartest thing we can do is if we develop sufficient herd immunity. And it will be difficult for the virus, to, move from one person to the other. And that's the essence of vaccination.
And likewise from one animal to a human being.
To a human being. So if once one person is not vaccinated, gets exposed, passes it on to another person who is not vaccinated or somebody who is immunocompromised, and it becomes a problem. So those factors are things that would have helped us to eradicate, this virus. So
we have 4 strikes already against us concerning this vaccine. Yeah. Then you mentioned something else about immunogenicity. Could the problem be that for those who have breakthrough cases, especially those who die from breakthrough cases, that in them, immunity had waned a long time ago or had gone too low? Like maybe, take me, for example, maybe I take a shot. And 9 months after, I'm still very immune against COVID-19. Could it be that those who have breakthrough cases...
With a booster shot.
With a booster shot? Are you serious? But those who died, for example, could it be that their own immunogenicity dropped to very low levels very early in the race, 3 months, 4 months?
Okay, that's a very good factor that could contribute to it. But we have other cases. Some people have, some other ailments that they have, that they're battling with. Some people had infections, COVID infections that had, that the sequelae, don't let me use this word, that the post-infection effects on some of their organs, is very devastating.
Okay.
So even if you give them the booster shot, the vaccine, they could not be sufficiently protected.
So they had an infection, COVID or otherwise, that affected maybe the heart, the kidney, the liver, the lungs.
Yes.
And then COVID came. You gave them a shot, but it wasn't able to take. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the immune system might be fighting. You could have immune response, but what if other organs or other systems are bad?
Because you need the organs to synthesize these vaccines, don't you?
Yes, the organs are required to maintain normal metabolism, to make the environment friendly. So you have a terrible, sorry, I keep going to law enforcement. So you have a terrible society, and you have good soldiers, good policemen. You're still going to have issues.
Yes, you will have issues.
You will. So you need all of these other systems, institutions...
To work.
So somebody who had been pre-exposed had a lot of damages. And so people now begin to blame the vaccines, that the vaccines are not working. The vaccines... So it's not as if the vaccines are not working, even though the vaccines are not there to, to cause a miracle, right? And some people could be immunocompromised, probably due to the drugs they're taking, or otherwise. And, we rarely keep data in this country very well. So,
okay, let me just pause you at the data bit. We really have to go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Please stay with us. We'll continue the discussion after now. Welcome back. This is Health Matters on Channels Television, and we are discussing COVID breakthrough cases, infections that people get after being fully vaccinated. You can call 0808-054-2233 to ask questions about COVID breakthrough cases while the discussion continues with Dr. Ayorinde. You were talking about data. Speak to us a bit about this.
So I'm sorry to say this. You know, we are not like a data-driven society. So people need to get adequate information, you know, just to like help them make informed decisions. Like we were discussing earlier, that you have a right to say if you want to receive a vaccine or not, but you have an obligation to your society to either see that how much would my, you know, action influence my neighbor,
the other person.
And we have an obligation as an institution to educate the people as well, so that people can know what is right and what is wrong. And there are lots of institutions in this country that are doing a lot of good works. And all people need to do is find a way to access data. Most of these institutions have data on their websites.
Okay.
You know, and so we need to know what cost most of the deaths that we had. Right? Yes, some of them were infected with, co-infected with COVID. Were there some other morbidities that they had that we did not report?
Okay.
Did we report those morbidities? Have we compared those other morbidities with, the cases that we've had? So some people could have some other things, and because they were even asymptomatic with COVID, and because of the other ailments that they have, and because by the time they go for
then
testing,
it's exacerbated.
And they say that, it might not be exacerbated by even the COVID.
Okay.
And they died of COVID after taking the vaccine.
Ah, I get it. Okay, so they blame the vaccine when they were not even honest about their situation.
Yeah. I'm not saying the vaccines, that the number of breakthrough cases that we have is low. It's high. But we also have myriad of factors that we need to look at.
Is the number of breakthrough cases higher than in other vaccines we've had?
With COVID, it started like 1 in 5,000. I think 1 in 5,000, but now I think it's about 1 in 100.
1 in 100.
In a report that I read. It's about 1 in 100 in some cases.
Okay, so my next question quickly is there anything we can do to prevent this?
Well, we need to continue with our surveillance system, which the country is doing very well, like the sequencing program, to see if we have a new variant.
Can I pause you a second? I want to take Sulaiman from Kebbi. Hello, Sulaiman.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is this. I have two questions. One, I am not opportunity to have vaccination. I'm here in the local government under Kebbi State in Zulu. I want to vaccinate, but I have not opportunity to vaccinate myself. That is one. Two, why is it those people who are vaccinated and they later get infection? What is the cost?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
First, I want to ask you, what is stopping you from getting vaccinated?
We have only one place where they're located. I went there. They asked me to register. I registered. I went back there to get vaccinated. The people I did not skate through, and I'm worried. But I want to vaccinate because some people are here. If you want to put some people's mouth here, they will just encourage you. They don't want to vaccinate. Some say if you vaccinate, you will have a right to do this. But I'm not in that. Me, I want to vaccinate.
Okay, thank you, Sulaiman. Okay, is his first concern that concerns me even more than why are breakthrough infections happening. He wants to get vaccinated and he's not being attended to. One spot?
Thank you for your call. I think he can find a way to, like I said earlier, most of these institutions have very robust websites where they have information. I know NPHCDA is doing a lot of work. I know they've done fantastic job in deploying vaccines to different states. And I'm sure if they get this report, I'm sure something will be done on that immediately. So I don't think that is, I think it's just communicating to the right authorities. And this is one of the good platforms. And I'm sure they are listening.
Okay, so Lyman probably didn't join us from the beginning of the show, or his second question wouldn't be arising. But let's pick up from there. And can you tell me some of the comorbidities, which is one of the reasons why breakthrough infections happen? Some of the comorbidities that, are complicit in this breakthrough infection.
Usually infections that deplete immune response, like HIV, cancer. A lot of us take corticosteroids in different forms, that causes immunosuppression.
Okay, I'm going to ask you what a corticosteroid is, but let me take Samuel, who is on the line now. Hello, Samuel.
How are you?
Very fine, very well, Samuel. What's your question?
Okay, my question is to the doctor.
Yes.
We have this AstraZeneca, whatever, associated that. Is there any data, those that took the vaccine and are dead? Let's look at what they took and the one that is most effective. Some are from India, some are from America, some from whatever. Yes, okay. People have been infected and they are dead. So is there any data? This man took AstraZeneca, he's dead. This quantity took Madonna, they're dead, so that we differentiate. Thank you.
That's valid. Thank you, Samuel. Is that being looked into?
I didn't get that clearly.
Well, he's saying, talking about data. Are people looking at what vaccine who took and had a breakthrough infection probably died, so that they can sort of vet the vaccines?
Yes, I'm sure there'll be some people looking at that, some form of unpublished data.
But here we have just two.
Here we have two, but if you look at even in the US where Pfizer is predominant, they still have breakthrough cases. So it's not a matter of the type of vaccine that you took. Like I told you, those factors, like you could have new variants that escape, immune detection or immune response. And regardless of whether it's Pfizer, AstraZeneca, or any vaccine that you took, one might get reinfected. Okay.
Let's quickly take Ademola before we continue. Hello, Ademola.
Hello, Mary. My question is this. I want to be educated about, say, side effect of taking COVID, especially for those who are on treating a drug, an ailment like maybe IBP, diabetes, or anything of that nature.
Okay.
When you take this, because the doctor was talking about
immunogenicity,
maybe attack as a result of the.
I'm sure he understands what you're talking about.
So one wants, you take first shot, second shot, and then possibly the third, and then Mary, you are talking, wouldn't that lead to the fourth? So let him educate properly.
Thank you. Thank you, Ademola. He wants to know about side effects of the COVID vaccine. And another thing, which, I thank you so much, Ademola, for that question. Some people are taking drugs for something else. How does it affect the COVID vaccine taking, giving them an immune response?
So, like I always say to people, it's always nice to consult with your physician on if you have some ailment and you want to go for the vaccine. Your physician knows the drugs he is giving to you at that time, so your physician can advise appropriately. So there is no general advice to people to if you're going for the vaccine, you take this, you don't take this. So if you know you have some ailment, you need to talk to your physician. It's wise to talk to your physician.
But in this case, you're getting the vaccine from maybe a primary healthcare center, and this is really important. Nobody asked me if I was taking medication for something else, which is what the doctor usually asks me if I'm ill. So let's say I go to a center now and they say, okay, did you register? All right, your name is here. Is this your first vaccine? Raise up your sleeve. Let's give it to you. And maybe the person is taking something for high blood pressure, for HIV, for anything, malaria. I know someone who had malaria and went and got a shot. The thing so knocked him down. But the person hadn't asked him, are you okay? Is everything fine? It was later he was saying, oh, I had malaria that time. And the person put her hand on her head, that, oh my goodness. You know, so maybe we need to play up these things a bit more.
Okay, yes, at the centers where you get vaccinated, you might not be asked some of these questions. But most of these side effects that we talk about, yes, are there. Most of them are well noted. Most of them are not as debilitating, you know.
Weakness, a bit of pain,
yes,
a bit of
which
fever.
you expect to have, even when you take some vaccines, even when you take kids for vaccination.
That's true. You stay up all night, keep it spongy.
So people expect that you have a vaccine shot and that's all. You just walk home.
On that note, we've got to close. Thank you so much for coming to discuss breakthrough infections. It was very, very entertaining and enlightening. Thank you so much for letting us into your homes to discuss these things. Please get educated about these things and stay safe. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Have a good day.